So good afternoon. I was going to make this video this morning, but it was such a nice morning out. I decided to go out into the garden and I mowed, and I've been sprinkling and mowing and having fun, and we just got through with dinner. In fact, I haven't really cleaned it all up yet, but I thought I would make this now. And yesterday I picked yarrow out of my garden, out of my yard, that I wanted to make a tincture with. Yarrow is an anti-inflammatory. It helps with digestion, blood pressure, colds and fevers. It'll stop bleeding. It's just all around good herb. And you know what? It adapts to wherever it's planted and sort of changes to that area. So it's sort of nice if you grow your own and it will be in your environment. And I think it might have a tendency to more supply what you need it to do because it's in your turf. So I'm just sticking all these blossoms into the jar, and if I was making dried, I wouldn't put so many in, but these are fresh, and so I'm going to go ahead and just stuff this jar, and it will go down eventually. But I might as well use them all that I picked. So I'm going to get them all in the jar. And there's just a few more. Okay. There they go. It has a different smell to it, yarrow does. I'm not sure you would even call it pleasant, but I don't mind the smell. You sort of get used to it. Okay, and now you have it in there, and it was fresh yesterday, but I let it set out to sort of lose a lot of that first moisture that's in the plant. And we're not drinkers, and actually I bought this at a yard sale. And I only bought it because I can make tinctures out of it. And it's brandy, and it says that it's 80 proof, which means it's 40% alcohol and 40% water. I think that's what it means. And you really don't want anything weaker than that, because it has to be strong enough to get all of the active ingredients out of your plant and your herb. And the liquid you put in is called menstruum. And I'm going to let it sit for at least a month to 6 weeks before I strain it off. Some people even do it less than that, but I want at least to go a month. And I've never paid attention to the moon, but since it's it's the full moon now, I can remember that when it comes to the full moon again, I can strain it off. And look, it's just perfect. Okay, and I'm going to get my little chopstick that I always push them down with. There. And at the end of, and this will probably be not very strong, actually, because it has a lot of menstruum and just not as much herb as if you'd put in dry herb. Okay. Now, whoops, I didn't do that right. I've got it marked on the top that it's yarrow and the date that I'm putting it on here, so I can keep track of it. And tomorrow, I'll open it up, push the herbs around to make sure they're all still covered, and I'll shake it up. And I'll do that on and off until it's ready. So this one can go bye-bye. And that's as simple as it is, and yet it will be medicinal, even though it won't be as strong, and it's okay. And then I wanted to say, you saw me pick my figs, and so I thought I'd look up some information on the fig, and it's good for all sorts of things. And it's really has a lot of minerals in it, potassium, calcium, magnesium, I think. Anyway, look it up, a lot of them. But what I thought was really something, it said because it's such a high fiber fruit that it's good for people with diabetes or stage 2 diabetes. And by the way, when I have a blood test taken, it doesn't show I even have pre-diabetes. But what happens is if I take my blood with a blood strip 2 hours after I eat, sometimes it's not in the area it should be, and I want it to be in that area. 2 hours afterwards, I think it should be 120 or lower 2 hours afterwards. And so that's what I aim for. Anyway, another thing I thought was really interesting, it said if you've been sick and you need to lose weight, eat figs. And then the other place it said that if you wanted to lose weight, that was a good fruit to eat because it's so full of fiber. Well, actually, I've gained maybe a pound or 2 since I started eating them. So I've really got to watch it. I really do. And has it been 5? Well, anyway, when I was 75, that's when I stopped all of the sugars that I knew were sugars. Before that time, and it wasn't hard for me because I was never really, what I always liked were things that had fat in them. Believe it or not, I'm apt to butter my hamburger patties or a steak. I can even eat a cheese sandwich with butter on it. It doesn't have to be a toasted cheese sandwich. I'm not talking. Actually, if you really want to know what I've done, now this sounds horrible, but sometimes I've taken a slice of cheese and buttered it and ate it. When I'm just craving fat. I don't crave sugar, and maybe that's why I'm this shape, I don't know. But I've been doing Jim and Renda's month. Okay, but I want to back up. When I started at 75 and I cut the sugars, that was the potatoes, the bread. The white bread can turn into sugar before you get it swallowed. So I cut out those things. A lot of the root vegetables I really either ate very minimal or cut them out. But at that time, I want you to know, I weighed probably around 175 to sometimes even as high as 179. I'm 5'5". So I was getting up there heavy. Well, I started in August, and it was just like every day the scale said a little bit less, and when I got through, I weighed 140. I think I even saw 139. I don't weigh that now. I weigh more. And I did that. I held the weight for a while, and then some things happened, and you sort of change a little bit, and well, anyway, right now where I'm at, I weigh from 149 to, let's say, 151, and I vacillate back and forth in that general area. And I probably, this month with Jim and Renda, I haven't lost that big amount of weight that I did before. Maybe I've lost a pound or two, I'm not sure. But the reason why is because I've already cut that back. My system is used to that, so it's not going to have that dramatic loss of weight that even Jim and Renda are experiencing that, because they've already had that. They're already to that place. But what I really appreciated about it, I found out really how much protein in grams I should have a day, and that was about a little over 7 grams a day that my portion should be. So I've divided that up, what I need for each of those meals. And then what I was doing, and it was bad, I was eating late. Well, now 3 to 4 hours before I go to bed, that's the cutoff, and I have felt much better. And also they encourage those snacks. At first I was a little dubious with that, but that really has helped. And of course it's a real, especially with a fig tree, to overdo it. So that's where I'm at that. I'm still too short for my waist, but I've lost some off of it. But you see in the pictures, I still have too much around here. So I need to work on that. And the older you get, the harder it is to do. So at 81, I don't know where I'm going with it. If I would eat like Tom is super thin, but we can't eat the same. If I ate like him, he eats carbohydrates. I can't do that. I would just gain more weight. So the last thing I want to say, I talked about the figs being good for your blood pressure. Well, I took my blood pressure after I mowed the lawn. I was sitting in the other room and I took my pressure. It was 127 over 59. My low number, my pulse rate and my low blood pressure number are always low. My pulse rate runs in the 60s someplace. My low blood pressure runs in the 60s usually, but it was a little bit lower because I'd probably gone out and mowed and done that. So anyway, I really think that my blood pressure is doing well. I just want to get consistent on my blood sugar. I would like to have my waist a little bit smaller. I'm not going to grow taller, so I've got to get my waist smaller. So that's about it for the day, and then I've got to clean up my kitchen. So I'll let you go. I'll see you tomorrow, and it's always nice to have you come into my kitchen and visit. And I'm doing this in the afternoon, but I'm going to say good morning to Marie Louise in Tasmania. And let's see, what would it be? It would be good night to those on the East Coast. So your day is about, one day is starting and one's about over, and I've got more to do. So see you tomorrow, hopefully.